Hello and welcome to Pro Tour Austin. I'm Randy Buehler here with Brian David Marshall. Round one is underway behind us. 417 people have come to Texas to try to win this third Pro Tour of the season. And Extended has gone nuts. That's my read on this format so far. There are just crazy combinations of cards going around right now.
Right. When last we left Extended, it was a GP season.
Yep.
And basically a different kind of zoo was winning every week.
Sure.
We had Ranger Zoo, we had Naya Zoo, we had Scepter Zoo, we had Night Zoo.
And then the last PT a year ago was in Berlin was won by the Elf deck.
So if you remember when we started off Berlin, it was like, oh, the worst kept secret.
Sure.
There might be an even worse kept secret this weekend, which is the Dark Hex deck.
Okay.
So Dark Depths was a card printed in Cold Snap that, well, you have a little bit of experience with this card.
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, sure, fine. It was kind of the fun card. I actually did manage to lose a side draft to John friggin' Rizzo, who did it the old-fashioned way. 3 mana to take off an ice counter 10 times, 20/20 indestructible Merit Lage avatar token. But it hasn't been seen outside of kitchen tables pretty much ever.
Until the release of Zendikar, which finally unlocked Merit Lage from her icy depths for the first time.
Vampire Hexmage is the key. That 2-card combination, the Hexmage, sack it, remove all the counters from Dark Depths, bang, 20/20 indestructible. And yeah, that deck is all over the place. I think there might actually be more of them, except there aren't enough Dark Depths in the state of Texas to sell to everyone who wanted to play this deck.
Right. Yeah, people were frantically looking for this card yesterday. Yep. People have also been frantically looking for answers to this deck yesterday. So we saw an affinity deck playing Ghost Quarter,
right,
which gives you an idea of how powerful and pervasive this deck is.
That's
It's a very fast combo deck. It can win on the first couple turns of the game.
Right.
It gets backed up with Duress, Thoughtseize. It's a very powerful deck.
Yeah. So that's not the only combination that's running around, though. A couple of new combinations I haven't seen before. Sword of the Meek Thopter Foundry. So every time you sacrifice the Sword of the Meek to the Thopter Foundry, which puts a 1/1 into play, which brings the Sword of the Meek back into play. So essentially every mana creates an extra 1/1. It's like having Maloku where you don't have to pick up your lands. And that guy was pretty good.
Yeah, and what's great about that deck seems very well positioned to beat both Zoo and Dark Depths. The Dark Depths deck can't get past your army of Thopter tokens.
Right.
And you have a creature every turn for the Zoo matchup, and it's a 2/3 blocker, so it's pretty formidable. And you just build up an army that they can't deal with.
Right, you throw in Ironworks, you can go infinite, you can also play the control game with Wrath of God type effects. Another combo that I had not seen until this morning.
I had not seen this one either.
Punishing Fire, Grove of the Burn Willows. So Punishing Fire is the new Zendikar card that you can pay a red if your opponent gains life, return it from your graveyard to your hand. Grove of the Burn Willows is the land, the red-green land that makes the opponent gain life. So you put that into a skeleton of Gifts Ungiven, maybe some Thirst for Knowledge. You can build this sort of long game control deck that has a pretty sick little card advantage and creature removal engine.
Right. There's so many combo decks here this weekend. We haven't even talked about Cascade Hypergenesis.
What's the other combo? Yeah, Cascade Hypergenesis. You can cascade into those that whole time spiral cycle. There's Hypergenesis. There's the Balance.
Restore Balance.
These are the ones that you would put off to the side. They have no casting cost, but that means for Cascade purposes they're zeros, so they come straight out.
Theoretically, you can even cascade into Boom Bust, by the way, and play the bust part.
Right. Because the way Cascade interacts with split cards is that either half is good enough, but then when you're playing the split card, you can choose to play the other half. So Cascade into Boom Bust can be quite good.
So, but the interesting thing is you're playing all these decks that basically are going to go off on turn 3 or turn 4.
Right.
If you can figure out a way to survive past those couple of early turns.
Right. Those decks don't have any reach.
Right, they have no reach. So Gifts Ungiven, we're seeing people playing old school blue-white control.
Right.
I've honestly seen well over a dozen and a half decks, just looking around the tables, played by name players.
Yeah, there's definitely a wide diversity of decks, and of course you've still got Zoo.
Right. You've
still got Affinity. You've got some of the staple sort of aggro beatdown decks. Zoo might be the most popular deck.
What else? We also have another old favorite from Extended that's been updated with Zendikar.
What's that?
Dredge.
Yes. Yeah, good point.
The Dredge decks are running Hedron Crab.
Right.
Hedron Crab is a 0/2 from Zendikar for you.
Right.
And then whenever it has landfall, whenever you play a land, you can mill a player. You can mill. You could
mill them.
I saw someone in play testing win a Dredge match where his opponent had Leyline of the Void out.
Oh wow.
And he just He said,
You
all right,
decked him with
I will
hedron
mill
crabs?
you. Yep, and he milled him with the
Wow.
hedron crab.
That's pretty funny. So the deck scene, pretty insane. The other thing that I think is pretty insane right now is the Player of the Year race. That's the other big storyline for me.
it's just
I
unreal.
have never seen a Player of the Year race this late in the season, this many people in contention. I think this is the best Player of the Year race ever.
Yeah, it's a 5-way photo finish right now.
Is it 5 or 6?
It might be 6, right? I'm not counting. I'm not counting Juza, I think, who's just
Still
fallen
working.
just below the surface.
Right.
Yeah, you have a bunch of players grouped right above 45 points to 50 points.
Right. Yeah, they're all within, like the top 6, I think, are within less than 10 points of each other.
What
so.
about Yuya Watanabe? Like, if you guys are not checking on Yuya Watanabe every round in the standings, you're doing yourself a disservice. This is a player on a Kai Bude-like run.
That's fair.
I mean, this is, if you remember, before Kai Bude went off on his Pro Tour run, he went off on this dominating string of GPs.
Yes.
He has top-aided the last 4 GPs in a row.
Watanabe.
4
top 8s
GPs in a row. He has a second and a win, to close out that stretch.
Yeah, when last we had a Pro Tour, you had basically LSV and Nassif were sitting at the top. They've done really well on the Pro Tour circuit, but like a whole summer worth of Grand Prix, and suddenly Watanabe is actually winning the Player of the Year race coming into this tournament.
I think LSV and Nassif are actually dogs in the race right now because they are not going to go to as many, like the 4 remaining GPs this season. LSV might go to 2 of them.
Right.
Nassif will probably go to 2 of them in the United States, not in Europe, not in Japan. And the other guys are all going to go to all 4.
Yeah, the way the schedule lines up, there's the PT this weekend, then 4 weekends in a row with Grand Prix, and then Worlds. So if you want to make the run at Player of the Year race, you should play 6 weekends in a row, show up in Rome. That's the plan. That's the itinerary, and we should see several people do that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Juice has been traveling everywhere. The Japanese have been traveling everywhere.
Saito, Shuhei, and Yuya will show up at every single one of them.
So you got an awesome Player of the Year race going on. Got a crazy extended format. I have no idea what's going to emerge from this extended
And we haven't even talked about draft, but
right. So the format is 5 rounds of extended and a draft. Cut to day 2, a draft plus 5 rounds of extended. 16 rounds from now, we'll cut down to the top 8. Brian and I will be here the whole time, bringing you the action from here at the Tournament Center. So stay tuned. This week should be a lot of fun.